Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and today I wanted to do a poppy tour update. I know there's a lot of people that have tuned into my channel because of my instructions on growing poppies, and I wanted to show you specifically how all the different areas are growing out now that we're in the middle of May, and what you should expect to see like once the petals fall off. And of course I'm going to keep giving you instructions so that you can harvest your own seed. It's actually been really fun, this front display, which I think is really awesome, has been like the target. So people have been stopping by all week like, can I walk in your garden? And there is no better compliment to me than to have somebody like who's driving past that's like, wow, look at how pretty that is. And then actually take the time to stop and like knock on my door and ask for permission. I wouldn't be offended if people just walk even without telling me, but I just had the coolest family that lives kind of down the street who I've never met before. They're not in my neighborhood, and it was just like, I don't know, such a motivating experience to see, you know, people who don't have a ton of gardening experience, but a lot of interest and all the little things that they can glean from visiting this property. So hopefully today I will share some good insights for all of you that have an interest in growing poppies. So let's get started on walking around the property so you can see everything that's in bloom. So starting right here, foundation bed. It's definitely more bachelor buttons and larkspur than poppies, but worth noting, you know, there are a lot of poppies blooming. There's also still a lot of poppies that haven't started to bloom. So again, you can see the different stages of bud development. And, you know, as it's getting ready, the stalk will actually straighten up and this will go straight up, and then the green part will burst open and then reveal the petals. No, poppies don't grow. They don't bloom that long. And these are all annuals. So this is a magic moment, and you've got about 3, maybe 4 weeks, depending on your temperatures, to have this look that you have been cultivating all winter long. I mean, think about it. This got sown on Black Friday, and I have been waiting since the end of November for this moment. Why is it so extraordinary? Because it's temporary. That's my take on it, at least. I don't want to live a life without these plants, so I accept their growing cycle. Yeah, they do self-sow if you don't turn your soil over, but for the most part, this is something that you do every single year, and I think that is totally worth the effort. Generally speaking, direct sowing the seed isn't hard at all. I mean, you're literally just tossing seed out into the borders. It's the waiting game that is the hardest part. But right now, as I'm standing here looking at it, it was worth the wait. And my seeds are all open pollinated. So people always ask, where do I get my seed from? I have been collecting my own seed for 20 years. Yes, I said 20 years, and I mean 20 years. I've been collecting this seed since I learned how to grow poppies and larkspur like this back in 2002. So the process for collecting seed, which I will post videos on, it is not happening right now. These are not at the seed producing stage, so you can't rush it. It's a process that nature has to take its course. But the reason that I think my poppies always do so well is because I have a really strong seed strain, and they're open pollinated, meaning you're going to get lots of different colors. I don't see the point in only growing Lauren's grape. I'm sorry. I know it's a pretty plant, but look, I would rather have shades of lavender and some dark purple and some raspberry and some white and some soft pink and some double. And unfortunately, over the years, I have not had very much success in that. The germination rate of the poppies I have purchased from online sellers has been really low or almost none. So I know this doesn't help everyone, and I do not do mail order seed sales, period. I do not, and I'm not going to. But I sell these seeds at fall events that are live and in person, and certainly at my fall open garden, which I will give dates on, you know, maybe in a few weeks. So the reason that my poppies always do well and that I feel really confident that when people buy seeds from me is that I'm growing the same seeds that I sell. And this is what they do year after year. So I can't say that, you know, seed you buy from the internet will perform the same way because it's not my seed. And my experience with buying poppy seeds from online suppliers hasn't been great. Not saying that that's entirely the case, it's just been my experience. So if you get poppies that do really well for you, it's to your advantage to collect your own seed. For one thing, then you don't have to buy it. But you'll also know that they have good vigor and that you will be successful the following season. And then it just becomes a habit. Can you grow poppies in dense shade? Yes, but they don't look that great. Okay, so here is a border that all winter long I was super excited about. The germination rate was really, really good. But, you know, all the leaves have come out. And now this area is really, really like full shade. It's barely gets any sun at all. So you see how tiny the poppies are. And this, I'm 100% convinced, poppies that are small like this, it's not about needing to be separated or thinned out. It's all about light exposure. And the bottom line is, in dense shade, the poppies aren't going to develop as well. Now in here you can see what is doing well is larkspur and cilantro. This right here is cilantro, and then all the larkspur comes in lots of different colors. Again, this is larkspur that I have been saving seeds of for decades, and all my seed is open pollinated. So you're always going to get a colorful array if you buy seeds from me. Okay, timing. I stand by my original statement that right around Thanksgiving, Black Friday is the best date, at least here in Zone 7. And I generally think that my advice for growing poppies and larkspur by direct seeding is accurate for Zones 6 through 8. And the reason that I want to tell you this is that this bed, which was sown on Black Friday, is definitely one of the most successful. This all winter long, I've been doing updates. You know, you can see in my old garden tours, and there was one bed that I did in October, and the germination rate was really, really good. And I thought, ooh, maybe I need to adjust my seed sowing. Wait till I show you. Those plants hardly have any vigor, and they don't look anything near as good as this. So I stand by my timing of late November into December for direct seeding this cottage style garden. So here we have another shady border that was seeded late. This got done, I think, between Christmas and New Year's. And they are about to bloom. You know, the plants in general are smaller. I mean, look, everything on the plant is smaller. The plant itself, the flower buds. Then you can see here, look at how tiny these are. Again, I think this is light. This is light exposure and nothing else. You can see some of these are self-sown. The ones that are right along the edge that are not in the border, but right along the edge, those were self-sown from last year. And the one that has the best vigor are these right here. They get western exposure in the afternoon, whereas into here it stays shady. So again, you can grow poppies in the shade. Like this is definitely a section that is nearly full shade now, but look at how much smaller the plants are. What about growing poppies in grow bags or containers? Well, I set out to do this experiment and they are just starting to bloom. Again, these were sown later, and I know that there's a video in this playlist that will show you the day I did this. So here they are. That's a fabric grow bag. I direct seeded the poppies in. It's been in full sun exposure, and they're just now getting ready to start to bloom. So you absolutely can grow poppies by direct seeding them in pots. Now at the same time, I direct seeded the pots. I also threw some on the ground. Look at how much smaller the ones in the ground are, and that's because they don't have as nice a soil. So these grow bags are filled with soil cube, and the poppies absolutely love growing in that dense compost. Now here you can see some really nice big ones, again, coming out of a grow bag, and it's just about to open. So this is a perfect example of, you see how the flower stem will stand upright. So yesterday that would have been curled like this, and then by tomorrow this will actually be open. Now there's no questioning that direct seeded poppies always have the best vigor, and it is funny how well they do at the base of a bottle wall, and that's because the bottles heat up with warm air in the winter and create a microclimate. So the soil temperature right along the bottles is always warmer than not bottle adjacent. So you get these really large, robust poppies. And of course, this is also in an area that is definitely considered full sun. More self-sown, and the way I know that is because they are right on the edge. Like, this is actually what causes my bed edges to grow every single year, is where the poppies land. So a lot of these started to bloom really early. So they are at this stage right here. The critical component to this is that you do not mess with the seed pods at this time. There's some legal purposes for that, but also you want to have seed that develops. The seed is not ripe. There is no, like, when the seed is ripe, it'll rattle around and this will turn beige and little holes will open. So it's really easy to harvest. At this stage, you just leave the seed pods alone, because the end goal here is that you're gonna harvest your own so you never have to buy them again. Now again, I let all these self-sown in here grow because I can't help myself. It does sort of drive me crazy that I can barely walk through here, but it's worth it because look at that magnificent random poppy that's burst. And this is hands down my favorite color. I really, really like this bright sort of raspberry pink. This, again, the benefit of allowing the plants to self-sow. They love gravel. This is Chapel Hill Grit. So my best plants plant themselves, and I just have to be smart enough to leave them so I can enjoy them. And then, of course, in a few, probably realistically more like a month, I'll be harvesting the seed once the pods are fully dry. And don't worry, I will post videos of exactly how to do that. So let's get back into the timing discussion. Here is the bed that I did in October. And all winter long, I mean, the germination rate was so good. But actually the display is really lacking. Let me turn the camera around so you can get an up-close view. So this is full sun, literally west facing. It's really good soil. And like I said, the germination rate was off the charts. Why are the plants so small? Honestly, I think it's because they started growing too fast and then they got damaged by the up and down cold temperatures. So again, I'm using this, it's all anecdotal, but I think it's pretty accurate. I think you're better off to wait to sow your seeds until November, because your plants will be at a growth stage in like February, March, when temperatures do go up and down, and they won't be physiologically impacted like these plants were. So you can see, you know, look, this is from cold damage. And that's because they were tender when temperatures dropped. So it's not always about the germination rate. It's also about thinking about as they grow, what stage should they be at to tolerate, you know, a sudden drop to 15 degrees like we had in the middle of March. Now this border, obviously all the poppies out front are self-sown, but I also planted poppies in this feed tank, and that's what the really tall ones are. Of course, I can barely get in here, but you can see there's the feed tank, and I just scattered the seeds directly. I did this on Black Friday, and these plants have done really, really well. It's kind of funny that the two that are in the feed tank ended up sort of being the same color. That was not done on purpose. When you scatter seeds, you have no idea what color anything will be. But that's the point. I really like the diversity of all the different colors together. I wouldn't want this to all be one shade of purple. All right, more poppies in containers. Now, I should not have put these here because this is the north side of a south-facing fence and it does not get enough sun. But nevertheless, the poppies are producing. They have not opened yet, but you can see there are flower buds, but they're smaller. And that has nothing to do with the soil and everything to do with the exposure. So next year, this experiment, which barely is an experiment because I've already proven that you can absolutely grow poppies directly in a bag of soil cube without even taking it out of the bag. Just poke holes in the bottom of the bag and then direct seed. But they need to be in more sun. This fence has created way too shady of an environment. These would be twice the size and already blooming if they were on the other side of the property. So I was explaining how it looks when the pod starts to split open, and you can see the petals will just unfurl. You don't really need to do that. I'm just doing it for effect. By morning, that'll be fully open. All right, so as we walk through here, you can see a lot of cool different things that were direct seeded. Nigella, of course, larkspur, carrots in full bloom. I love this combination. I cannot stop taking pictures. And I wanted to show you over here first where this was done in January after the new year. And I put down cattle fence panel so that my cats would not dig all the poppy seedlings. So you can see the cattle fence is still there. And the poppies are growing really well. They will probably be in bloom next week. And again, that comes with timing. Now, this has become quite a bit of shade because all the leaves have come out. When this was sown, it was full blazing sun. And I think that's the critical component. To get them established to be large like this, you need to have them under trees that are going to be late to leaf out, which is precisely the situation with this sycamore. Now, this side of the fence was also done, I think, around January 2nd, so later than my target date of the last week of November. And you can see they're established really well, but they haven't started to bloom yet. So obviously a later sowing time is going to result in a much later bloom time. And the majority of this border was done late, like in January, except for what's flowering right now. And those were self-sown. So big difference between these and these, which I think the first one that I direct seeded is blooming right now. You see tons more to come. And now if you've watched my videos, you'll remember this peach tree was my mark. The middle, I thinned to the left and I did not thin anything to the right. And I don't see any difference whatsoever. I don't think that thinning is necessary. I think you can let your plants fight it out, and they will. That's the thing. Now, don't be too heavy-handed when you sow the seed. And you want to learn to watch. If you want to see how to sow the seeds, you need to go back to the videos from November and December where I show you exactly how. Because I don't have any seed to sow right now. All of it's growing, and I won't get any of this harvested until mid to late June when it's fully ripe. You can see some of the borders are predominantly larkspur with very few poppies mixed in. And I think that's a-okay. And I love how the nigella kind of congregates itself. This is all self-sown. I didn't do any of that. And look at how well behaved it is. It grows right on the outside edge of that carex. That is not me doing anything. I do not interfere. I am not in here thinning and weeding things out. I am a let it take its course kind of person. Now, as we pan over to the south side, these are all self-sown. I didn't sow any poppies in here except for the Schultzio, the California poppy. But we're talking about Papaver somniferum, these great big bread seed poppies. And this was where I was showing you the ideal spacing without having to do any thinning. And you can see exactly what I meant by that. The plants are robust, they're super healthy, they're, you know, lots and lots of flowers. And of course, this is full sun, south facing, absolutely ideal environment. So what are the key takeaways from this video? Take my advice from my more than 20 years of experience. Sow your seeds right around Thanksgiving. Remember, this is for zones 6 through 8. Look, I've never lived in the tropics. I don't live in the north where the ground freezes. I can't give you verbatim advice if you live in a climate that's completely different from where I am. My advice for people like in Minnesota is to ask your extension agent, find master gardeners, go to a public garden and see what they do. But I can't give it verbatim advice for an environment that I've never gardened in. Zone 6 through 8, 100% what I'm doing here in Raleigh, North Carolina is gonna work for you. Okay, when you sow the seed in the late November through mid-December, the critical component for successful germination is keeping your soil moist, not super wet, but not super dry. This year in North Carolina, we were dry, and I lost a lot of seedlings as a result of them not having enough water when they first germinated. So, note to self, even though it doesn't feel like you should have to be running sprinklers at that time of year, you might actually need to. The seed grows all winter long, and it doesn't look like anything. And if you go back and look at my winter garden tours, you'll see this bed was super boring. But if you want a beautiful cottage display like this, you've got to do it. You sow it in the fall, and then you wait all winter, and then it bursts into bloom, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Okay, exposure. More sun than shade, 100%. And actually, the richer your soil, the better your plants will be. All of mine are growing directly in Soil Cube, and I will put a link in the description so that you can learn more about that absolutely amazing soil. Okay, harvesting the seed. It's not time yet, so I'm not going to give you that information. Tune in to my channel, Breathe the Plant Lady, so that you can get the full cycle of information so you'll have the most successful poppy growing experience ever, every single year. Well, I hope you found this video to be helpful, and I hope that you will subscribe and tune in to my videos on a regular basis as I continue to try to share more practical gardening advice so that everyone can have green thumb confidence. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.